You are tuning into the Real and Hungry podcast where we are going to talk about the world of real estate investing, beginners,
It shouldn't be like these 12 people because loans and realtor, and you can start building some equity as well.
Thank you for tuning back into the Real and Hungry podcast. So what's up, Miguel? Where we talk about real estate investing, and today we're gonna dive right into it. We want to talk today about terminology. It's called the BRRRR method, and it is a method where investors can buy a house, fix it, rehab it, rent it, and then refinance and pull their money back out. And these strategies just kind of goes into and allows them to do it over and over again. So we're going to talk about that, why we like it, why is it good, can you still even do it now with the rates being so high,
the benefits of it,
the benefits of real estate, and what is our experience being by doing the BRRRR method before, because what I've heard here lately is that you can't do it anymore. Like,
it's been hard. 2023, the rates were crazy high. And, right now they're still high. I think they come down a little bit, but it's been a challenge doing it for sure.
It is. So we're in 2024. So let's can you go a little bit deep into it and explain what exactly that method is? What is the BRRRR method?
Well, just like the letter stands for, BRRRR, I believe. So it's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So basically, what you do is you purchase a property, you rehab it, you rent it, and then you go to a bank. Usually they lend you anywhere from 75 to 85% of the value of that property. And then by the time you refinance it, you're paying back your lender the amount you put in the property. Hopefully you're getting some cash back, or you're breaking even with all your expenses, and you got a cash flowing asset. And it could be $100. But the key of it is that you got out your money out of it. Now you're infinity cash flow because your ROI is infinity. You don't have no money in the property technically.
And you still have the property, right?
And you still have the property, and you still get the benefit of the property, which is, in this case will be, the tax write-off of it. You're getting cash flow. The property is being paid down, and it's appreciating every year at least 3 to 5%. So, that's great.
So I think the biggest, I know when I started doing it, the biggest issue, not issue, but I guess the biggest concern for me was like, I got to make sure that my numbers are right, because truly the way that this thing works is you have to be able to do your numbers enough where you can buy the property, you can fix it at a fixed budget, you can rent it at a decent rent amount. But the idea is that when you go to refinance it, you have forced about 25 to 30% in equity, because that's the bank's only going to give you about, what you said, 75 to 80% of equity. So if you go and they do an appraisal on it, and he doesn't appraise for what he needs to appraise, then you might be under. You might not be able to get all your money back.
That's true. In that scenario, if that happens, think about this. If you buy a turnkey rental, or even a non-turnkey rental, traditionally you're going to have to put at least 20% down. So, if you do the BRRRR method and you have to leave 10% on the deal, I think you're still winning. Because you couldn't buy that property, and put only 10% down.
It's still less than 20%.
Exactly. So I think, anytime you're less than 20% now, let's say, you have $10,000 on the deal and you're cash flowing, $200, $300 a month. You still, return on investment is still great. You know what I mean? So I think that's the main thing about when you're looking at the numbers. Obviously, you have to get your ARV right. Be conservative. Don't always use the highest ARV, because, like you're saying, it doesn't necessarily matter price for that. Or make sure you're doing it where you actually have a really alike comp in the same street, or in a mile radius away.
So let's try to dumb this down a little bit for people. So how do you go about when you go look at a property, right? And you have to buy a house that needs a lot of work. That's really the goal, because you're getting a good deal.
Unless you actually go find it off market, you might find actually some good deals, yourself.
But let's just say how do you go once you find a deal? Let's just say you find a deal, you think it may be worth $200,000 and you can get it, let's just say, for $100,000. How do you come up with that? You think you can sell it, or you think it will appraise the ARV value, the after repair value? How do you come up with that 200,000?
Yeah, I mean, we have a video on our channel that we talk about, kind of this process and the importance of the ARV. I think ARV is gonna be your main number. You want to make sure that you calculate that really, really well, and you don't want to use the highest comp. You don't want to use the lowest comp because then you'd be missing out on the offer. I think if you stay kind of conservative and you leave some room on each side to be able to always come out top, I think should be good. So basically, what I do, real simple, I go into Zillow. And I basically search kind of like a mile radius around the property. Make sure that you're using kind of the same neighborhood, because sometimes you might go a block away and it's a complete different neighborhood and it messes up your ARV. So it's really important. But basically create a radius around the property, and then I start looking at 6 months old. Then I go to 12 months old, and then sometimes if I don't find enough comps, I look a little more. But usually you'll be able to find something alike. You compare the amount, if he has 3 bedrooms, you want to look at a 3-bedroom. If he has 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, you don't want to compare it to a 2-bathroom one, right? So it's simple like that. And once you, get your ARV right, then from there you can, kind of do a calculation on your numbers, estimate the rehab, and then from there it should give you what you should buy the property for.
So ARV, after repair value, just in case we put it out there, and then comps, what you're talking about. These are comparable sales. That's what you mean by comps.
Yes.
Comparable sales. So we're looking at, okay, we see a house that is in great condition and he's sold for X amount, and that would be, and it's right down the street from this house. That's how we kind of gather those comparables within the last 6 to 10 months. So Miguel, tell me why this is so attractive. Why is this strategy so attractive, and what has been the biggest challenge about doing this strategy in 2023 and in 2024?
Yeah. So, I bought my first property, which we also have a video on that. If you're new to the channel, we appreciate watching us. Please subscribe, and you can watch the older videos. We're making these videos because we're also starting out, right? We've only been doing, I've been doing it for 3, this is my 3rd year. Brian's been doing it for 2 years, but, a little longer since you bought your first house and stuff. But we're all learning. So we're just sharing with you guys what have been, our success and the things that we've learned, that we put into practice, and then we've gotten the results. So, that's all we're doing here. So we appreciate you tuning in. And if you had any suggestions, drop it in the comments. But anyway, back to your question. The biggest challenge, I said, it being the rates. Because it really, you got to look at what the house will rent for as well, right? Because when you can explain a little more about these, usually the lenders want to make sure that your payments at a certain ratio compared to what you're renting the house to. So that's also another important number. That's also another comparable that you have to look at when you're trying to do the BRRRR method, because, depending on what you'll be able to refinance the house for, what would it appraise for, you also got to look at what it would rent for, because that's important as well.
Yeah. So yeah, it is. So, and I think you hit it on the head. So because the rates are so high, when you go to refinance, and your monthly payment, you're going to have to pay back to the bank, right? Even if you have somebody paying your mortgage, your payment is going to be so much higher because of the interest rate, which means that the money that you're bringing in every month is going to be a lot lower. So the cash flow, which is, there's really, people say there's a lot of ways to make money, but for an investor, you can either fix a house, flip it, and make money right away. It's a transaction, right? You make your money, or you do what we did, you fix it, you refinance so you can get your money out and buy another property, and then you let the house pay for itself. But in the past, investors were doing that, and they were making a lot of cash flow. I've heard of
2020 was great for those people.
Yeah, I've heard like they were making $600 in cash flow, $1,000 worth of cash flow. I haven't had that success. I think if we do it in 2023 or 2024, it's safe to say that maybe the cash flow can range anywhere between like $50 to maybe $300, and that'll be on the high end. Like, it's very, very small margin you make, but you have the asset. It's paying for itself, and it's a long-term play.
Exactly. We talked about it. You're not gonna reach right away by doing this method, right? But you're building equity. You're building. You're buying assets that are appreciating assets, and they're going to pay down themselves, or the tenant is going to pay down the asset for you, while at the same time is increasing in value. So, that's important over it. We look at it as, I'm buying it right now. I might be cash flowing $50, but if the rates come down a year from now, 2 years, 3 years from now, I might start cash flowing $500 a month. And guess what? That property is going to be worth more. So at that point, you can do the same thing, refinance it, get some of the equity out, and continue to make cash flow. And another thing is, how long would it take you to make $10,000 on a rental? It probably take you 3 to 5 years, right?
Yeah.
If you cash flowing, let's say $300 a month, right?
Yep.
So if you're like, some of the deals you've done, and I did a deal the last year as well, where I got about $15,000 back, and on top of that, I'm cash flowing $50 a month. Is a winner, because that's how long it's gonna take me to make $15,000 on a rental, And the bad thing about that money is that when you refinance a house or you do a cash out refinancing, the equity you get out of the house is tax free, so you don't have to pay money on that. You don't have to pay taxes on that money, and that's a big point, right? When you do,
because you're borrowing money.
Yeah.
So anytime you're borrowing money, you don't have to pay any taxes on it. So that's a good example. So why don't you talk about like an example from start to finish where you were able to use this method, the BRRRR method, to buy the property, rehab it, rent it, refinance it, and let's talk about the numbers.
So I'm going to talk about this house, the rental that we have, and it was we bought it for, I believe it was somewhere around 117, and we put about 10,000 in. It didn't need really that much work, so we were earning somewhere around 127, 130, and the house appraised for 205 when it was done. We thought it was going to appraise for 190, 195. And we kind of forced our appreciation a little bit there, and it appraised for 207. We were able to do at that point, I believe we did 75% of that. So we were able to cash out, I think it was around 15,000. We have a loan now for like 153. If I'm, and I have to do the numbers to get them right to use kind of ballpark. And the house is rented for 1,500. And after expenses that, we take the vacancy and the maintenance and all that, we manage ourselves, so we don't have to count that. We're making honestly, about $50 a month cash flow. But we got $15,000 up front, tax free. To us, that's big, because that $15,000 you can put into a different asset and do the same thing and repeat and repeat and repeat. And if you do 10 of these, it's great,
Which there's many ways to skin the cat, right? In your example, you knew that it was more important for you to get $15,000 extra out of the property, roll it over into a new property. You weren't really too worried about the cash flow. And I feel like some people get so hung up on the cash flow. Like they're like, man, if I'm not making 500, it's not even worth it. And I'm like, it's an asset that's appreciated.
Well, here's the good thing about it. We still got 20% equity.
Technically, if we count that, yep.
Or actually, in this case, 25% equity between the 207 and what our mortgage is, and we got the 15,000 tax free. The property's appreciating. We're paying down the loan every time, and when the rates come down, we go from making $50 a month to probably making $500, $600 a month.
Yeah.
So those are the great benefits of real estate, and that's why we got into it. We encourage you to get into it. Buy your first house. Try to get your first rental. Don't sell your real estate. Keep it, and try to leverage from it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know, man, that this is. And I just want to emphasize this. Like, this is a long-term play. Like, if you're not patient, if you're not looking at 5 years, 10 years down the road, you're probably going to fail at doing this, because I think people want that instant gratification. They want the money right now. And I'll tell people like, hey, I have a couple of rentals, and they look at me like, oh man, like you must be making a bunch of money. And I'm like, no, I'm still working a lot. You know what I mean? Like I'm, like the cash flow that's coming in is so small, but I'm not worried about it right now. I'm thinking about 10 years from now. So it's very important for people to think long-term, not short-term, when they're getting into real estate, especially if they're doing the BRRRR method. But in your example, I think that's a great opportunity. One of my first deals, it was similar to yours. I used my home equity line of credit. I paid $114,000 for the home. I invested $10,000 to paint new flooring, just kind of make it real nice. So I was about $124,000 all in. I rented the house for like $1,400. It appraised for, I think, like 167. So the bank gave me like 134, 35. So I made I got back like an additional 10,000 on top of what I put into it. Now, of course, I worked at the house. It took me like 3 months to get it, put some time into it. But I'm not cash flowing much, probably like $100 a month, which I knew. So I'm not getting rich off of it. You know what I mean?
But you also have the 20% equity though.
But I have my 20%. I have the asset that is appreciating. And just paying for itself. So it's not much, but it's there. It's gonna be a good long-term asset if I keep it.
Now, Brian, we're talking about the positives right now, but everything has its upside, right? Everything.
Let's talk about the real side.
Yeah. Things go wrong all the time in this business. Like, unfortunately, everybody tells you it was the good stuff, the good side, but people don't talk about, all the stuff we go through, especially if something goes wrong. Those tenants call you at night, 1 a.m., 10 p.m. You're with your family. They call you, toilet's clogged up. There's shit coming from the top, like you just happen to us in one of our rentals. Dude, it's crazy. But, even though, we go through all the bad stuff too, there's a lot of benefits. But, I mean, can you tell me one scenario you have on one of your rentals?
I think the first rental that I got, and this one was a little bit different. I didn't know everything that I know now. So I did it the traditional way. My wife and I, we worked our butts off. We saved about $50,000 to $60,000, and we said we're going to grab this money and we're going to invest into a home. I put 20% down, bought a $180,000 home. I was pumped. It was kind of moving ready. I didn't have to do much. I just kind of painted a little bit, nothing. So this was when the rates were lower. So I think I got it at like a 4.75% rate. So my cash flow was a little bit higher. So, man, I get my tenant in there. I'm like, man, I'm cash flowing like $500-$600. It's the biggest cash flow, but I just put $60,000 into it. I kid you not, man. 3 months after they got in there, they're like, hey, our furnace is not working. And I'm like,
no way.
Oh, crap. Are you serious? I thought it was brand new. Man, had the HVAC come out there. They hit me with a $2,000 bill. There was a short, something smoked. They had to put a new motherboard.
$2,000.
I'm like,
your cash flow went to.
I'm talking about. Not only did I spend $60,000 that we've spent years saving, now that's like 4 months of my cash flow gone.
It's crazy.
On a house that I just put $60,000 on it. So I'm like, man. But it's one of those things, and that's just one of many, right? But you also have the plumbing issues, the water heater, and it's like every time you go and you spend $300 here, $400 there, $500 there, it's just eating.
That's up, man. It does. I mean, we had this apartment complex that we finished them. They're really nice, and tenant was waiting to move. It comes moving day. A day before, I sent my guys there to make sure everything was good, because I don't want someone spending all the effort into moving into one of our properties and then gets there and there's an issue. We don't want that happening, because that's gonna create just headaches. So I sent one of our guys over there to check the apartment. I'm thinking everything's okay. I get a text and it's just a bathroom full of water, and shit coming from the toilet and the top, and I'm like, what is going on, dude? And this is a fourplex. Like, if something's wrong with that unit, most likely something wrong in the whole complex, right? So, I get a plumber out there. I'm freaking out. I'm like, man, what do I do now? This guy's moving to Motor. He's probably closing his lease where he's at. He's got everything packed. How do I take this guy? So, how to call him and tell him, hey,
we got a delay.
Can't move yet. We got a delay. But called the plumber. Long story short, plumber was there on Friday. He couldn't fix the issue. He came back. He told me, hey, we just got to, dig on the main tour and try from there, because I haven't been able to unclog it. And then we go to the basement. I see on my security camera in the basement that we have. He opens that clog and bunch of like sewer water come from there, and it was disgusting. So he's like, man, we got a big problem here. And so I got to text the tenants on Monday, hey, do not use your facilities for 3-4 hours until we see open the pipes and see what's going on. So long story short, after $4,000 and a few days of work, we got to fix. Apparently, back in the days when there was a leak that fixed it, like one of those clay pipe, there was a bunch of rocks in there, so there was literally almost nothing coming out of that pipe. So but long story short, it was backed up. Long story short, man, we fixed it thankfully, and we have 3 clean outs out there now, so I don't think this is gonna happen again. But again, $4,000 gone.
Which this also goes back to the point. This is why it's so important for investors to have a little bit of reserves, or at least have access to some money if you needed to, right? Because I think a lot of people want to buy a real estate and they're trying to put all their money into it, and they don't realize, like, if you don't have reserves for something goes wrong, like we see it all the time. Investors getting rid of properties, right? They're like, they either don't want to deal with the tenants anymore, or they can't.
Then they liquidate some cash.
They can't afford the maintenance that they have. So now they're just like, I gotta sell it,
And this is it's kind of. Some people tell me all the time, like, "Hey, I'm cash flowing $500 a month." What are you calling cash flow? Because if you're getting $500 a month and you're not saving for vacancy when your property goes vacant, you're not saving for maintenance. You know,
if you're spending it, if you're spending
and you're getting that 500 and spending it, you're gonna be in trouble eventually. Because when this happens, guess what? You're gonna get it out of pocket. If you don't have that reserve from even your own money, you're in big trouble. Because you got to fix it. You got to address that issue. So I'd rather, instead of making 500, I'd rather make 200. I know it's clean. I know I'm putting money in a savings account that a year goes by. Thankfully, nothing goes wrong. Something happens. I get the money from there and I start from over again. And that 250, I'm able to invest in something that, like, you know, put in another savings account to go travel or whatever I want, or paying my mortgage or whatever. But it's true cash flow, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you always got to account for
like,
those
don't
reserves.
lie to yourself, you know?
Yeah.
If you're getting $3,000 from all your properties every month, don't use the $3,000. Make sure you're putting away 5-10% for that maintenance and future expenses and vacancy, you know, another 5% probably. So
in closing, you know, I think the BRRRR method is one of the most attractive things about the BRRRR method is that truly you can do it over and over again. Yeah. So if you do it right, like if you have a loan, equity line of credit, or if you have access to some hard money lenders or any lenders, you can truly buy a house, fix a house, rent it, pull all your money back out, and then you're reusing that money to buy a new property. And you can do that over and over. So with the same money, let's just say you take $200, you could use that same $200 over and over and over again to acquire property. Yeah. So that's the big one. And then the other one is, look, this is a long-term game. I haven't taken any money from my rentals because I'm saving it for a rainy day. I'm saving it for all these maintenances going on, or I'm trying to reinvest it back into the business. So you're not going to get rich quick. It doesn't matter if you have a few rentals. It's just not. But long-term, if you're patient, it'll pay you off.
10 years from now.
It'll pay off. And then the third one, what was the third one that we wanted to hit on?
Oh, the third deal?
No, the third thing that we wanted to hit on. As we close this out.
Oh, okay. All right. Make sure, guys, we're trying to hit is a pretty, I think, achievable goal. We're trying to hit 100 subscribers.
We're almost there. Help us out.
You know, we're getting 150, 75 views per video. Please, if you're watching this video, if you think we can get better, and please leave us a comment. If you think you like our content and, you know, we have room for improvement, subscribe. It really helps us. It really motivates us. And we really do it for you guys. We're trying to put the time and energy into sharing good content and try to help you. If you have questions, reach out to us on social media, and we'll try to help you as much as we can. Please subscribe, like the video, and hit the little bell so you get notification when the next video is coming out. Thank you.
That's it. Peace.